I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
We got Darren Doogie Wilson in the house here from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. The NBA news is flowing from all directions. In fact, just as we flip on the microphones here, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has agreed to the richest contract in the history of the NBA. 4 years, $285 million, $71 million a year.
Holy
lot of money being thrown around in the NBA.
Good for him. It'll be fun for a colleague of mine who is connecting with Chet Holmgren later today to ask Chet about his teammate getting the bag.
Yeah.
Not a shock, but still good for Shai.
Little champion Chet Holmgren. So let's just start with like what they did yesterday in the last 24 hours, the Timberwolves, and what they could potentially still do here, and if there's any names that make sense. But so the Wolves wind up losing 3 players to either free agency or just other teams already. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker to the Hawks, 4 years, $62 million via sign-in trade. So he gets more than the mid-level exception. Nice job by his agents. The Hawks have been super active. So the Wolves get a 2027 second-round pick. They get some cash, and they get a $7 million trade exception, which can be used essentially to help offset an incoming salary in a future trade. They got one of these in the Kyle Anderson trade last year, too. That was a sign-in trade. Luka Garza to the Celtics, 2 years, $5 million guaranteed. Josh Minott, player option or team option, not picked up, so he's gone. But Joe Ingles is back on a $3.6 million vet minimum contract to be a culture guy, waving towels, and once in a while inbounding a pass. But for anyone that's like, why would you sign him for 3.6 when you could have, well, for any vet that has 2 or more years of service time, the player gets the 3.6 million for being in the league for 11 years, but the cap hit is 2.2 million. So the Wolves basically have room for either 2 vet minimum contracts now. They have to sign at least one more player or acquire at least one more player. Or the taxpayer mid-level exception of like $5.5 million. So, Dukes, your thoughts on just a busy last few days here? Busy in some ways, but also running it back in some other ways for the Wolves.
2 other pieces of news from the last 24 hours. Leonard Miller had a contract guarantee date of Monday. Well, that's come and gone. So Leonard Miller locked in. The Wolves did extend a qualifying offer to Tristan Newton, a 2-way qualifying offer. So there's some hope he'll put pen to paper like Jesse Edwards, be back on a 2-way. I am happy for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If you look at all the deals agreed to on Monday across the league, that is the richest one. Good for him. We've hinted at this for a few weeks, but I still wasn't sure. Like, to get that much, a tick more than the full 4-year mid-level, absolutely a win. I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I will absolutely miss him on the court and in the locker room after practice, the conversations, how insightful he is. But the Wolves feel like, hey, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark, these guys are ready for bigger roles. It was trending in this direction, Phil, for many, many weeks. Now, the one thing, going back a few weeks, pre-KD trade, I would have told you, in fact, I probably did, that in that moment, I thought Josh Minott back, Luka Garza back. But things started to shift. But the headline moves. Nas back. Julius Randle back. Nah leaving. Zero surprise. My understanding is moving forward, the number one goal is to acquire a ball handler. Now, are they open-minded to maybe adding some size? Potentially, but you do have Jesse Edwards on a 2-way. You have Zakarsky on a 2-way. Beranger may be able to play a few minutes. I mean, I don't have big expectations next season for the Wolves rookie, but he will be under contract. He'll be around. He will be available. Plus, Leonard Miller, they still have enough of a healthy opinion of him. So my understanding is, because Mike Conley Jr. is about to enter a season where I think at most he's playing 20 minutes a night. Plus, we're not talking 78 games. Whatever that number is, He's not playing that many. And okay, we think Rob Dillingham is going to be better next year, but we still need to see it to some extent. So acquiring a ball handler right now is the number one goal from what I can gather. Is there interest? Or put it this way, I believe Cole Anthony is on their radar. Absolutely. Spencer Dinwiddie on their radar. Absolutely. Gary Payton? No. At least as of Monday night, I was told no on Payton. There's some other names out there. I know some people are upset. What about Tyus Jones? You mean to tell me you lost out on Tyus? He goes to Orlando 1 year, $7 million.
Can't afford him.
That's more than the Wolves could have offered. He wanted clarity on his role. I don't sense anything came remotely close on the Tyus Jones front. He has a good relationship with Desmond Bane. They reunite in Orlando. Heck, even a relationship with Jalen Suggs. No state income tax. There's a lot of things to like about Orlando. Going to the Eastern Conference. I'm just telling you, for those asking me, I just don't sense, Phil, it ever came remotely close on Tyus Jones coming back here to the Wolves. And on Joe Ingles. There is something to be said about, and I know that the word drives Royce crazy, but culture, chemistry. The 13th or 14th man is not playing, okay? And there was no interest in Joe Ingles becoming an assistant coach. Like, that topic was never broached. But he is beloved in that locker room. That means something. Plus, hey, there might be an instance or two next season. You need an inbounder, right? Somebody to make a good inbound pass. But it's not like they signed him, re-signed him for playing sake. It's everything behind the scenes. I don't have a problem with giving Joe Ingles the vet minimum. And as you mentioned, the cap hit is just a tick above $2 million.
So, Dukes, speaking of clarity for that guard, what is the assumed role then with Conley back, but to your point, not playing nearly as much? Dillingham, who I think they probably want to get a real look at this time. So what would be the assumed role for a guard that they brought in to sort of be part of a three-man weave there of sorts?
I mean, I would say somebody that's capable of starting, that there may be 15 games next year where you need this player to start, but somebody that's comfortable coming off the bench. Certainly Dante DiVincenzo can help. I think he is going to be here. I do think at some different points the last few weeks, the DiVincenzo camp thought he's not going to be back, that he's going out in a trade. But at this point, I see Dante DiVincenzo here next season, and I'll continue to say I would bank on Dante DiVincenzo having a markedly better season next season compared to what we just saw.
Yeah.
That there's a lot more there. Like, think about his run with the Knicks 2 years ago. That's still there for DiVincenzo. I mean, that trade, I'm telling you, like, that was a shock. He did not see that coming late September. It took a while to adjust. Then he was sidelined for a bit with an injury. I'm just saying there are many reasons to bet on Dante DiVincenzo having a really good year next year. But yeah, it's somebody like a Cole Anthony, Judd, that can start, can come off the bench. Phil, you brought up off mic the name Malcolm Brogdon. I think he's looking for more.
I agree.
I don't know if he's coming here at 5.1 million or 5.2, whatever the exact number is for that taxpayer mid-level, that exception. But yeah, somebody of that ilk, somebody like that, Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm telling you, just knowing some people that were in Dallas the last couple of years, they speak very highly of Spencer Dinwiddie. Oh, by the way, same representation as DiVincenzo for whatever that is worth. I'm just saying, if you can get Dinwiddie, I think that would be a win. Now, we can debate. Are the Wolves going to be better next year after you lose? No, if you bring in somebody like Dinwiddie or Anthony or even perhaps Brogdon, or even if something changes on Gary Payton. Are you a better team next year? We can have that conversation. But there's also a thought internally, okay, Ant is going to get better. Okay, DiVincenzo, better. Okay, what we saw those last 21 games, 17-4 in the regular season. That there's a lot more of that Julius Randle compared to the earlier version of Randle, November, December, and then he gets hurt. I'm just saying, like, they feel like there's enough internal growth. You give Nas all that money, trust me. Yes, he's a cult hero. Yes, they love him. They also feel like he hasn't come close to touching his ceiling. They feel like there's a lot more with Nas Reed. So that's the way the Wolves are looking at it, that they can be better next year than 49 wins because of a lot of internal growth.
Yeah. Do you think I'll ask this just because like they did have the ability to re-sign. You can re-sign your own players when you're over the cap, over the apron. So they could have brought back Nickeil Alexander-Walker for his market showed to be about $15 million a year. It would have put them $8 million into the second apron and all of the financial ramifications, but more importantly, roster building restrictions. Do you think there was ever a thought of, hey, if we're going to run this thing back, let's truly run it back and dip back into the second apron by bringing Nickeil Alexander-Walker back? Or have they just been that hard-lined about the second apron being a no-go zone?
Somewhere in the middle, there was genuine interest in Naw coming back. And that's why I'm alluding to the DiVincenzo camp thinking at one point he could be elsewhere, that Naw would be here, but Dante wouldn't be. But those restrictions, Phil, man alive, tough. It is incredibly tough. Now, hey, you could go into the second apron now, then plan on making a trade later, but that can handcuff you. It's not like Alex and Mark are anti, a big payroll, right? They still are paying the luxury tax. Mm-hmm. Think about the luxury tax bill for the 24-25 season. Over $90 million. So they get it. That's the price of business. But you are just so restricted being in the second apron for a second consecutive year. It just doesn't make sense. It's always been a goal of the Wolves to dip below that second apron.
So the one thing that keeps coming back to me, though, because they're not making significant actual roster changes, is this. They're going to run things back. But when you think about how little Chris Finch used some potentially very valuable young assets, right? And like Tim Conley appears to be, and I think his track record says, good at drafting. And he's not doing it for fun. He's actually trying to, God bless him. He was a very valuable player. But in my opinion, he is the exact type of guy that you have to let walk because you've got guys coming behind him. And then someday somebody will come behind that player. So they are running things back, yes, by not making major moves. But I sort of pushing back against this because if Chris Finch begins to use guys that he didn't use last season, it is going to have a different look. And by the way, it should. This is how a good Pobo and coach work. So,
well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we go back to last June. Trust me, there was some forward thinking that, hey, a year from now, we absolutely could lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We really like Terrence Shannon Jr. Let's do that. Let's land him. And hey, we feel like he's absolutely an insurance policy. Now, in Shannon's case, older than Anthony Edwards. We saw in snippets what he can do. Yes, Judd. I mean, Finch even alluded to this at that immediate news conference right after the season, right? The postseason presser. That, hey, I need to play Terrence Shannon Jr. more. That is coming. Jalen Clark telling us at a basketball camp 10 days ago or so that, hey, he firmly believes whatever was told to him, exit interviews, whatever, he is preparing to play more minutes next year, very much working on his ball handling and shooting for sure. But Jalen Clark is hey, I absolutely believe and plan on playing significantly more minutes, whatever that looks like, but more minutes next season. So yes, this is what shrewd front offices do, right? You prepare and you can't. Just the rules, the way they are set up, you cannot keep everyone. It is impossible. So good for Nickeil. I love what Atlanta's doing. That's a great spot for him. Trae Young reached out to him. Hey, Trae doesn't play defense, but everybody around Trae, for the most part, plays defense. And you can look at the Eastern Conference and say, okay, clearly the lesser of the two conferences, Indiana down Halliburton, Boston down Jason Tatum. How good is New York going to be next year with a new coach? Like, there's an opportunity. Damian Lillard out, so Milwaukee, presumably not as good. Like, there's an opportunity for Atlanta to make a significant run next year. That's the other question. So you look at the West. You look at all these moves the last few days. How much better is Houston? I love Brook Lopez to the LA Clippers. I love what Denver has done to get Bruce Brown for the vet minimum. I think Cam Johnson will fit in well.
Yeah.
I do. Like, I like what Denver has done the last 48 hours. So you look at the Western Conference, you're like, whoa, okay. All right. It's definitely not slowing down.
Yeah, Denver's better, Houston's better, San Antonio just by another year of Wemby even is better. So I think I want to come back to, I think the biggest unanswered question here with the Timberwolves real quick after we shout out Safe Side Barbecue, Judd.
You know what? I got one word for this panel and all of you out there. It's brisket. How much do you love brisket? Because, oh, look at that. That looks so good. Because guess what? Our friends at Safe Side Barbecue, by the way, the best barbecue food truck in the West Metro, they are serving brisket and so many other delicious things with 100% wood-fired smoking, juicy, savory, tender meat. Everything homemade. The bread right there, made to order for sandwiches. Find them at SafesideBBQ.com on Facebook for where they are going to be next. That food truck, absolutely top notch. Again, SafesideBBQ.com. Run to your computer. Do not walk. Find them and make sure that you enjoy some of that incredible brisket and all of their other offerings.
Also, run to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning if you're getting a little swassy this time of year. Get that air conditioning tuned up, Judd.
Oh my God! You know what? I was checking it out, and it's getting hot and muggy, humid, and guess what? That means that your air conditioning, as Phil just said, has to be on point, has to be on top of its game, and that means if it's not, that there's only one place to go, and that is our friends at MSP, who do such a fantastic job, a great job of making sure that your home is comfortable in the winter. Of course, that's the heating, plumbing all of the time, and air conditioning. Right there, you see it, the website, callmsp.com. Call msp.com to make sure that your house is as comfortable as possible for you and your family.
So, Doogs, let's drill a little bit further down here on the point guard situation, because we're throwing out these names, and I love, like, Dinwiddie would be fun, and Brogdon, I think it's more money, but really, like, the long-term key and maybe the short-term key for this team getting better is Rob Dillingham, I think. I mean, Rob Dillingham was the 8th overall pick. If you look last year, and it's kind of small sample sizes here, but when he was on the court with Anthony Edwards, those two guys as a two-man pairing, the Wolves were a +9 points net rating per 100 possessions. And you could go to some three-man lineups too, where like Dillingham, Anthony Edwards, and Naz Reid +16 per 100 possessions. Dillingham, Gobert. There's some interesting combos here, but you gotta play him. And I think the best chance to unlock him, even though he's 20 years old, you're gonna have to live with some turnovers and some head scratchers. But the best way to expedite his growth is to play him next to Anthony Edwards and the other starters. That's the biggest unanswered question for me, is how willing are the Timberwolves and Chris Finch to basically say, all right, back-to-back Western Conference Finals teams, and Dillingham is the starting point guard. Conley coming off the bench, maybe even at some point, he's a DNP coach's decision throughout the season. How ready are they? And I know it's a rhetorical question because we don't know, but I really think if you're gonna kind of run this thing back, do it without the safety net. Don't start Conley. Start Rob Dillingham.
Well, I have a hard time seeing that happening, but it just points to how enormous a summer it is for Rob Dillingham, because there's still a ways to go development-wise. Now, like, okay, you add Dinwiddie or you add Cole Anthony or somebody of that ilk. They still don't have the exact skill set that Rob does. The way he can get to the basket, there are things he can do that whoever you're signing can't do. But yes, it's all the turnovers, Phil. It's the decision-making. Is he ready for this? And I don't know here on July 1st. Can we revisit this on November 1st or maybe more so October 1st? After I talk to those close to him, Gerald Wilkins, others, maybe try to touch base with Coach Cal, who's still maintains a relationship. Others that know Rob. Like, is that possible that he has a really, really good summer? I mean, he's dedicated. My understanding is the work ethic is there. Like, there's nothing they need to worry about him spending time here this summer, being in the gym with their developmental coaches, all of that. But is he grasping everything? So the work is being done. Does he fully understand what Chris Finch is trying to accomplish? And so there's still some questions there. But yeah, I'm with you, Phil. Yes. Like, for this team, if we see this team advancing past the Western Conference Finals, it's easy to think Rob Dillingham has a lot to do with that. That there's a reason why you were so aggressive this time last year to obtain him. So yes, but I can't tell you here on July 1st that he's absolutely ready for that. I need to see how he progresses this summer. But I still know, like, especially Gerald Wilkins, like, there are so many people that still absolutely believe in Rob Dillingham. They're betting heavily on Rob Dillingham. Heck, I know he's got fans in the Suns front office. Like, if a KD trade had worked out, they wanted Rob Dillingham, right? I'm sure he has fans across the league. Now, maybe some detractors too, don't get me wrong. But the Wolves remain big fans of Rob. But I need to find out how the next few months go before I'm willing to say, okay, opening night, late October, Rob Dillingham starting point guard. I just don't know if I'm quite there yet.
When do we see the Summer League rosters? Because I'm actually very geeky. I am very excited for this, because I think that the Wolves, like, I think we are going to learn some things, Dukes, that you're talking about right now, or at least see glimpses in those games. So when do we get to see who's going to participate in Vegas?
Yeah, so the opener is a week from Thursday. So they open Vegas Summer League play July 10th. And hey, practices are about to ramp up this weekend. So I imagine later this week, the official roster will be announced. I mean, we know some of the names. They're bringing in a kid from College of Charleston. They're bringing in a kid from Loyola Chicago. I mean, names that aren't going to do anything for a majority of even the people that love basketball that consume us right now, names that will fly over your head. But yeah, I mean, we're curious on guys like Beranger, right? We want to see him play.
Yep, Dillingham.
And others. But yeah, it's more about, to me, in the practice gym. Like, because I don't think there's a whole lot of defense being played in Vegas. I think Dillingham can put up big time numbers. I want to hear more about the behind the scenes stuff. And so to me, there's more to it than Vegas. Now, hey, if Rob falls flat on his face in Vegas, okay. All right. Then maybe that sticks out. But I think Rob will be fine in Vegas. I need to hear more come, late July into August, into September, all the work he's putting in.
Yeah. I think the other, just looking at, I'm going to keep fighting for Rob Dillingham to just either start or play a bunch of minutes. But the other thing that's going to be interesting is Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle. Like, they obviously won a lot of games and they went to the Western Conference Finals with those guys in the starting lineup. But I feel like the fully maximized version of this offense does not include Jaden McDaniels standing in the corner for 2.5 hours, which tends to happen when you've got Julius Randle, who can be a gravitational pull with the basketball, and Anthony Edwards. So I do wonder, what tweaks could they have in store to bring this offense a little more consistency, a little higher upside, in addition to figuring out the point guard situation, so that Jaden McDaniels can get to that mid-range game? Can they just run more things for him, again, that don't involve him standing in the corner and firing off his weakness, which is corner three-point? He's not a good corner three-point shooter. So I'd love to see what they might have cooking up for that too. I'm sure they're thinking about it, but
I'm sure they're thinking about that. Yeah, thing. Phil, you say run more. How about run anything for Jaden?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. But yes, they have for a long time believed there's a lot more to Jaden's offensive game. Now, I will say, I thought late regular season, into the Lakers series, into the Warrior series, even at times in the Thunder series, Julius Randle's decision-making was a lot faster. There wasn't as much dribble, hold the ball for 6 seconds, get a shot off.
Mm-hmm.
Like the version we saw of Julius late in the regular season into the beginning of the playoffs, I think that can really aid Jaden. Now, hey, I'll never claim to be an X's and O's scheme expert, right? So, yes, we can suggest they are thinking about that. I don't know exactly what that will look like. But, yes, they have thought for a long time. That's why, I mean, he's darn near untouchable. Okay, if Milwaukee puts Giannis on the table, fine, let's have a different conversation. But, like, they never once thought about including Jaden for Kevin Durant or maybe some other things that were bandied about. They freaking love Jaden McDaniels. So, yeah, when you freaking love somebody, find a way to make sure that he's getting double-digit shots a night. It doesn't need to be 18, but he needs to take more than 6 shots. And so whatever that looks like, yes, I am positive that is something they are thinking about. And, hey, outside of Corliss Williamson going off to San Antonio, it looks like the coaching staff is going to remain. Like Mike Inori, I guess, is still in the mix for the Knicks, but he's still under contract, I'm told, with the Wolves. Signs point to Mike Brown getting that job with the Knicks. Now, hey, I was led to believe Micah made a favorable impression with the Knicks. I'll continue to say it's when, not if, Micah is going to get a chance. But right now, as we sit here on July 1st, I will bet on Micah Nori remaining on the Wolves bench. That's a good thing. Elston Turner, Finch, go up and down the list. It's a smart, capable coaching staff. So, yeah, it's on them to figure out how do we unearth more from Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah. So there it is. Darren Doogie Wolfson here on Flagrant Howls. And I think I do sense a lot of, I'll throw one more thing at you and then we'll let you get on with your day here. But I do sense a lot of frustration from fans. And I mean, hell, we spent the last 2 or 3 weeks all in good, recklessly speculative fun, concocting different ideas. There was a bunch of different reports. I mean, the KD stuff, the Wolves were very much engaged in that. But a lot of fans are just kind of deflated that they aren't going to do something huge, something roster shaking that's going to make headways. And all I would say to that is it's certainly not for lack of poking and exploring, but at the same time, Tim Connelly has built up enough, I think, good equity and trust in the moves that he's made to where, all right, there are worse outcomes than running back a not back-to-back because this is a different team, but like a Western Conference Finals team from last year with a bunch of valuable, also movable assets. That's one thing I will throw on this conversation, Dukes, is a year ago, before the Cat trade, you had this albatross contract. You were a second apron team, and you wind up, for the value of the Cat contract, getting Julius Randle, tradable asset going forward. You wind up with Naz Reid staying and on a contract that's also movable if needed. You get the 17th overall pick in Beranger. And so there's a lot of chess moves on the board in the next 12 months if needed. But I'm sort of in trust Tim Connelly mode at this point, just responding to some fans who might be disappointed.
And, hey, God bless Gerson Rosas. You still have Anthony Edwards.
And Jaden, yeah.
Like any Wolves fans that are upset, okay? You have Ant-Man. There's no reason to be upset when you have Ant. But yes, credit to Tim. Like next year, you have Julius plus Naz at lesser money than what Cat is going to make with the Knicks. Those are all tradable assets. Heck, you can trade Rudy Gobert if you want to. If this thing goes sideways, Randle can be traded. Gobert can be traded. Sure, Naz could be traded. Trust me, there remains all sorts of interest in DiVincenzo across the league. That contract is incredibly valuable. Yes, you have some young guys. Heck, you're going to bat for Rob Dillingham. I'll go to bat for Leonard Miller. Like, he's dominated at times in Iowa. I'd like to see Leonard Miller carve out a little bit of a role next season. But yeah, they have all sorts of assets. So sure, like, Phil, if KD wanted to be here, we'd be talking right now about Kevin Durant being a Timberwolf, not a Rocket. Yeah. I'm just telling you that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even quite sure at this point they have a 100% full understanding why KD didn't want to be here. And so there's still some weirdness there. All right? Now, hey, good for KD. Houston is going to be really, really good. Udoka is such a good coach. Like, I love what the Rockets have done. Like, I get it. They were the 2 seed last year, but you didn't really like their chances in the playoffs. To me, they can be the 2 seed and make a run next season. But yeah, if the Wolves need to make a move or two at the trade deadline or sometime prior, if it's just not working out, yes, they can do that. But sure, why not? You made a deep run with a lot of this roster. There is nothing wrong with running this thing back. But okay, I understand if there's trepidation that you look at OKC and say, okay, this current construction of the Wolves isn't beating the Thunder. This current construction of the Wolves isn't beating the Rockets. This current construction of the Wolves isn't beating a team they own, the Denver Nuggets, because Denver got better. So I understand if some Wolves fans are thinking that, but you should still celebrate the fact that you have Ant. You should still celebrate that they've made the playoffs 4 consecutive years. You think about where the bar was 10 years ago, now where the bar is, right? There's so much to celebrate. One other note before I leave you. So 1 week from Friday, July 11th, that will be the big day in Vegas for Alex Rodriguez, Mark Laurie. Friday, July 11th. So Summer League
Vegas
opener, Thursday, July 10th. Friday, July 11th, the big celebration, the big introduction, well, reintroduction, I suppose. Mark Laurie, Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah. Little Vegas press conference. Splashy. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. So good stuff, Doogs. We'll catch up again soon on Flagrant Howls.
Okay, sounds good, boys. We'll talk on Thursday.
All right. We'll have our ear to the ground on where those vet minimum contracts may be headed here. Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. See you guys.